when I met her, she was just pregnant with her first child, and she was on sales calls. In our coworking space, I see this woman just on sales calls all day left and right. And I'm talking about ready to pop back then. She was ready to pop. Today, the little boy is 4 years old today, right? But back then, like she's ready to pop at any point. She's hustling on these sales calls. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, man, when you have the baby, are you still gonna work this hard? And that was my introduction to the conversation.
But I am the world's biggest super fan.
You're like a super fan.
Welcome to the Business Superfans podcast. We will discuss how establishing business superfans from customers, employees, and business partners can elevate your success exponentially. Learn why these advocates are a key factor to achieving excellence in the world of commerce. We discuss the invaluable insights of business owners who have successfully implemented the strategies in the book to build their own team of devoted superfans. Gain insightful knowledge from the experts who create applications that help you create passionate superfans. This is the Business Superfans podcast with your host, Freddie D.
Ready.
Hey, Superfans, Freddie D here. Welcome to episode 216 of the Business Superfans Advantage podcast. Too many business owners stay trapped on their hamster wheel of constantly chasing the next customer. They deliver great work, collect a one-time payment, and then move on without building the systems or relationships that create reoccurring revenue, referrals, and long-term growth. In this episode, we're joined by Andy Audate, who helps small businesses use technology, automation, and stronger customer relationships to build predictable and scalable companies. Andy started as a young T-Mobile franchise dealer, moved into speaking and event promotion, and then adopted during the pandemic by turning live events into webinars and automated marketing systems. Today, through Progreta and GHL Engine, his team support thousands of businesses using CRM technology to strengthen sales, service, and customer retention. You'll hear how business owners can stop trying to do everything themselves, automate key touch points, create recurring revenue, and turn satisfied customers, partners, and vendors into enthusiastic advocates. Every episode becomes another practical blueprint inside Revenue Reactor. Transform real-world business wisdom into personalized guidance through Metas. Welcome, Andy, to the Business Superfans Advantage podcast. Great conversation that we had before we started recording. Let's continue the conversation. Welcome to the show.
Hey, my man, I'm super excited to be here, Fred.
Yeah. So you've got a pretty cool platform. We were talking about that. I'm not going to name it. I'm going to let you explain it a little bit. But what is the backstory? How did you get into this direction? I know that you've got a marketing background and you've got a sales background and a multitude of different things that you've done, but what's the story? What's the backstory?
So the backstory here is, as a marketing agency owner, I understand the value of the technology that goes into marketing campaigns. I understand the value of helping small businesses grow and scale. And really the core nucleus of all their campaigns is going to be technology. So I was a service provider where I was providing the service. And what I discovered is that by putting attention on the technology that the businesses use, that allows me to have better results for my clients and better control of the outcomes of the campaigns.
So what got you started into that direction? I mean, let's go back further back. How did you get into that? Because it just didn't happen like that, right? There's a story there.
Yeah, I will share with you. The story is in 2016. So we're going on a little bit about 10 years ago. I was a speaker training people how to speak. Now, how I got into that world, if you're familiar with Les Brown, the motivational speaker, Grant Cardone, these big names, the way that they fill up their events is that, actually, I'll go even further to that. I'm the youngest T-Mobile franchise dealer. So I owned cell phone stores and I got into that role right after high school. T-Mobile was expanding. They acquired a company called Metro PCS. They needed dealers. I stepped up to the plate. I opened up my first location. I ended up having 4 locations with them. And then what I discovered that I really enjoyed was helping people. I was training my sales guys, my sales reps, and I enjoyed helping people. I enjoyed doing training. So I realized, like, I have a knack for this speaking. I want to go speak on stages. And so I went and I started searching online, like how to become a speaker. And Les Brown, the motivational speaker, his ads retargeted me. I entered into his marketing funnel, opted in, got on a call with the sales guy, and I signed up for his course. And when I went down to Miami, which is the headquarters of where this online course was coming from, when I got there, I discovered like that there's this whole opportunity to go and speak and go on tour. So I asked them, I said, hey, give me a shot. Let me go and speak and go on tour. I was 21 at the time, by the way, maybe 20 years old. And they said, absolutely not. And so after a couple of months of pushing for the opportunity to speak, they said, look, you're not someone who can speak on stage just yet, but you could sell tickets. You're a 21-year-old guy. You're just starting your career. I just made a little bit of money in the cell phone world. So I was semi-retired, but they said, look, you have some time on your hand. You have some skills of selling. You have the spunk and energy. Why don't you go in and sell tickets to the events? So I went on the road and I was selling tickets for their in-person events. And that was the business model that I ran for a couple of years between 2016 to the pandemic. So that 4-year sprint, that's what my job was. It was just filling up, selling tickets to in-person events. And then because the pandemic, I remember during the pandemic, we had a 13-city national tour lined up. We were doing from East Coast to West Coast, Miami, North Carolina, Las Vegas, Ohio, Dallas, Houston, multiple cities, Boston, multiple cities. We had 13 cities lined up. And during the pandemic, the first event, which was in Atlanta, Georgia in March of 2020, they said that they could not do the event because of the pandemic. So I'm scrambling, like, okay, I have all these tickets sold. I have all these people coming to my event. So I said, let's change it from being in person to online. And we'll just do the same thing that we're going to do. We'll just do it from your computer. So we'll have the PowerPoint. It was weird because I was trying to have people like clap and the Zoom wasn't working as intended. When you have a bunch of people clapping on Zoom, you don't hear everybody clapping, right? So
Right.
I had to create something new. Back then it was snaps to the webcam like this, and that's what you could see. And that was the version of clapping. And all the stuff that I would say in my presentation, like, I need you to yell success, and everybody's yelling success, and Zoom is all confused, like who's talking, so it mutes everybody, so you don't hear anybody. All those small things, right? So I was doing these in-person events, but I just did it online. I determined I discovered that was called a webinar. Now, to fill up those events, we took some of the practices that I did in person and I put them on web pages. And I discovered that was called the marketing funnel. So in that practice of filling up my events, I realized I built systems to get people to buy products. And this product just happened to be an online event. And so we did a lot of webinars, hundreds to date of these webinars where we're packing thousands. In 1 year, we got over 6,000 people registered, 6,500 people registered without spending any money on ads because the practices and the systems that I did wasn't including ad spend. So I took all that strategy, put it online, and other businesses were like, dude, it's working for your events. Can you do it for my business with other products? I did it for some small businesses, which were like coaches and consultants. They were selling courses. They were selling online digital products. They were selling digital downloadables. We built those systems and those funnels, and then it ended up working for them, and that birthed our marketing agency. As we were running our marketing agency, I discovered that I would always get a customer, build a campaign for them, set them up with the technology, and then I would not lose a customer. The customer would not need my services. They hired me just to build out a marketing campaign. So I was always on the hunt for new customers, but in the back of my mind, the technology that I suggested to them, I was getting paid residual commission on as an affiliate. So what was steady income during the pandemic for my business was this commission that was coming in, but I would have these high months of revenue through the services. And then there's a company called High Level that said, hey, you can become the software company instead of sending it to other people so that you get to keep 100% of the revenue. And that started my journey of building a marketing software company.
And that company is called Progreta, I think. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes, I have two companies. One is Progreta, which is our white label version of Go High Level. So if anyone who doesn't know what Go High Level is, it's a CRM platform. And Freddie and I were talking offline about the journey of running a CRM business. It's a CRM platform to track, manage conversations, manage relationships with customers, and manage your website all in one place. That's the company number one. So I white labeled their software and I called my version of it Progreta. Then, because we grew in the space and High Level recognized that, they brought me in to do trainings and speaking events for them. Thousands upon thousands of other Go High Level users would reach out to us and say, hey, can you support us with our use of Go High Level. So we have another company called GHL Engine, which we service about 2,500 Go High Level users today. So in their businesses, they're using Go High Level. We're their back-end support. So my staff helps them use, onboard, and build out on their Go High Level instance.
What a story. And you picked up a lot of different things and pivoted as you needed to through that whole story to get to where you are today, where you've got your own platform in a sense. And more importantly, you're the back end for a multitude of different companies because not everybody has the skill sets to start creating automations and everything else. You might be really good at laying tile because you're a flooring guy, and how to use the system, but going in there and setting up automations and marketing campaigns and stuff like that, that's not your thing. You're a flooring guy.
Exactly. Exactly. When a small business focuses on their businesses grow and flourish. Where I see that most small businesses are struggling is that they try to be everything. They try to be the marketing person. They try to be the, like you said, the flooring guy. They try to be all of these roles inside their business, and that keeps their business small rather than their business growing and expanding.
Right. And what you're using with the platform, because I'm familiar with it, I actually use it to manage this podcast
Yes.
and some of the other things I do. And that is that you can maintain your relationships. Because the other thing you mentioned about is you had a customer that you did a high-end service and everything else, and then they just don't need your services anymore. And yes, you're making the residual money from the platform, but you can leverage this system for our listeners to maintain that relationships with customers because a lot of people have the one and done mindset. And I'm sure you've come across this where you've done great work at someone's home. Let's say just talk trade services. The flooring guy, you've done a great job in putting the flooring. You go on, you're chasing the next deal and you're not maintaining that relationship with that past customer. And this platform can actually automate the continued connection with that past customer and turn them into what I call a super fan that becomes an advocate promoting the great service that you did with their flooring.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you're hitting on the nail. When a small business owner can just focus on their focus, their business is going to grow and flourish.
Right. And the tool becomes a mechanism that helps them free up their time to do the things that they're really strong at doing, going back to our flooring guy or a lawyer or whatever it is. But at the same time, you've got you guys come in and help set up all the contact points and the campaigns and everything else to maintain those relationships with all that business's ecosystem because a flooring guy's got vendors. So he needs to communicate with his vendors that he's getting his flooring stuff. You can create automations to maintain that conversation with those people to convert them into advocates that says, okay, we really like our buddy Andy. He really takes care of us. So we're going to make sure that we take care of him. And so now you're in a bind for some needs. These guys will step up and come and help you out. I mean, I've had a guy on the show that when the pandemic hit, needed 500 laptops. Everybody was looking for 500 laptops. He got his right away because he would spend time going out to lunch, taking his vendor out every now and then and building that relationship. So
Right.
when it was time, guess who got the favor?
The one who needed it and the one who had the relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about what are some of the things that you guys do and how did you get these two companies going and what's the story there, Andy?
So let's start off with the first company, Progreta. In 2022, so at the time of this recording, that's 4 years ago. And in 2022, I realized that I was on this hamster wheel of hunting for new customers. I ran a business which I recognize it as OTP, one-time payment. A client needs a website done, 18 grand, one payment done, got 18 grand, and then our company would service them. A business owner needs to create an online course. Our team would fly in, record the content, edit the videos, and then we'll put it on LMS, like a learning management software, and we'll create their course, the marketing funnel, set up their webinar system to sell their course. All those functions, my team will go ahead and build. 45 grand, one-time payment. All right, got it. So that's how my business ran for many years. We've generated millions that way. But I recognized like I wanted this reoccurring freedom because what I discovered by hosting these events and the speakers that I spent a lot of time with, I realized their business models, they would have this high ticket upfront and then their freedom came through reoccurring revenue. So I would have these speakers on my stage and one would say, here's my $5,000 course to learn real estate. And that person who goes to that course, when I look at their infrastructure, would end up partnering with that company, with that brand in their real estate portfolio. And in that partnership was buying a real estate asset that created monthly cash flow. So, okay, got it. So when I look at your sales process, many people would only see the front end, what you sold on stage. But because I had the relationship with you, I was able to see the journey. I was able to see it. Wait, you're telling me that it goes from a sales presentation on stage where you sell a course. The course is $5,000 to learn how to sell real estate. They come in to learn how to sell real estate. Some go do it by themselves. That's totally fine. But then a small portion ends up partnering with you. And then out of that small portion that ends up partnering with you, they end up bringing you real estate deals and you're capitalizing on monthly recurring revenue, that monthly cash flow from tenants paying you. So that's really where the money's at. So the front end is a way to get people in. I was stuck at building front end products. So I didn't have anything reoccurring. Then a high level came in and said, hey, look, you can use this platform and white label it and sell it as your own. Then it put me on this journey. Now, when I say this journey is every setup that I did, so I still continue the setups of like website build outs, course development, and so on and so forth. All I did was add on, in order to house this, you need a software. Instead of me telling you to go get WordPress and pay X dollars per month at WordPress or Kajabi and pay $200 there, you'll get my version and pay $200, $400, $700 here with us. So I got hundreds of customers that way, where I would build out a simple landing page. I would do a webinar, for example. I've done over 400 webinars at this stage since the pandemic. So I would do a webinar and I would sell on that webinar, for example, we'll set up your landing page to generate a lead. That whole system, one payment of $997 for us to build it out for you. So in one webinar, I may get 25 people to go ahead and purchase.
Yes, you've made a return on that investment, and the more important part of that is that you maximized your time investment because of the fact that, okay, now you set it up, you had, let's say, 150 people and 25 buy. That's a great return on the investment because then you've spent a couple hours putting the site together and doing a 1 hour, 45-minute webinar that's probably recorded. And then so you got people popping into that. So you've really leveraged the technology to maximize your ROI.
Yes, but the freedom really came in with that back end system where, yes, we charge the front end $997, but then we charge on the back end. We had different price points depending on how many users, but it was between $397 to $697 a month.
Right. Right. So, Andy, share a story how you stepped into a company that really didn't have any technology and you guys came in, mapped out what they were doing, helped them get set up with Progreta and optimized. And now their business has grown because of the work that you've done. So they're what I would call a super fan. And now they're telling other people. So now they've become your sales team because of the word of mouth that they're talking about you and the things that you did to help them achieve the goals that they're achieving.
Yeah, I'll share with you an example. Let me come up with one. Well, where I'm at right now. So here in my office, I work in a co-working space where there's other businesses. So like we're one business here in this room, but then in other rooms here, there's other businesses that use the same office space. And so there's another business down the hall that they run a makeup academy. So they educate people on how to run their own business as a makeup artist. And so I didn't know that this was even an industry at the time, by the way, where if somebody wants to learn how to apply makeup, that's a skill, but also run it as a business where every wedding in your local area that people are calling you and they're calling that person to do their makeup. Now, this woman's business, at the time, she was probably doing like just under 6 figures a year. So like the high 90,000 a year, $80,000 a year and so forth. Well, now she's doing $60,000 a month. We implemented this system 4 years ago, 2022. So now she's doing $60,000 a month. Now, her entire business is built on our technology. So she's familiar with Go High Level, the platform. She's aware that she can create her own account, but she decided to work with me because we added intellectual properties and systems for her business to implement. Now, here's what we added. We added an automated selling machine. I call it automated selling machine. And how it works is multiple series of landing pages, web pages with email sequences that look and feel like it's coming from a member of her team. And when people go into that landing page to opt in to get a downloadable which is a book. It's a book on the 5 steps to start a freelance makeup business. When people download that book, the series of next pages are asking people to go ahead and purchase. And she's selling a $6,000 online program. And what makes me move in this story is because when I met her, she was just pregnant with her first child and she was on sales calls in our co-working space. I see this woman just on sales calls all day left and right. And I'm talking about ready to pop back then. She was ready to pop. Today, the little boy is 4 years old today, right? But back then, like she's ready to pop at any point. She's hustling on these sales calls. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, man, when you have the baby, are you still going to work this hard? And that was my introduction to the conversation. I see you here all the time. When you have the baby, are you going to continue working this hard?
Yeah,
And she's like,
can't do both.
she's like, of course I am. This is how I pay the bills. Of course I am. And I said, my name is Andy. And then started our relationship. And I said, this is what I do. What do you do? And then it naturally came down to, are you open to finding a solution? And she says, yes. So we plugged in the system. I told her, number one, you need a lead gen machine to generate leads to your ideal customers. That is going to be an ebook. This was before AI, by the way, so she actually wrote it. That is going to be an ebook and the giveaway for free to people who want to start a business, as in freelance makeup artists. That's your ideal client. They opt in. When they opt in, they then go through pre-recorded videos. I'll give you the script. So I gave her the script of what to say, and she just followed exactly what to say. So she recorded it. We placed it on the web pages, and then within a week of her launching it, she got her first $6,000 sale without her actually having to do a sales call. It completely changed the way that she did business. Then she added ads on top of it. So I didn't run the ads. There was another business locally here that ran ads to the system that we built. He started running ads, and then her business just took off. So in the last 4 years, she's skyrocketed where now she's doing $60,000 a month. When 4 years ago, she was doing $80,000 a year.
So you could definitely say that she's a super fan of how you've transformed not only her business, but her life.
Yes, to the point where she's an affiliate. So meaning that she drives new customers into our software. So that's one. So she gets monthly recurring revenue because she's connecting us to new business, and then we give her a commission every single month. That's number one. Number two, I've invited her to speak on stages where I've said, hey, look, these are new customers. Let them know what we did for you. That's one of many people that we've transformed their businesses.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, and like I mentioned earlier before we started recording, I'm delivering a show to a guy out of New Zealand. And one of the things that really hit me as I'm editing and because I'm delivering it later today was he really talked, it's all about human to human connection. And this guy's a CPA, but at the end of the day, he said that the money is in the human connection of people helping people get to where they want to get to.
Exactly. I forget the book. But there's like a quote in one of the books. It's a man who is no longer with us, but he wrote a phenomenal book on business and relationships. But essentially the premise is if you want to get rich, just help as many people get what they want. I think it was Jim Rohn. And so if you want to get rich, just do that. Help as many people as you possibly can. Help them get what they want.
Right. And you don't have to worry about yourself.
Exactly.
It'll take care of itself. Yeah. Do you have another story? What's the other business that you guys do and how you've created a super fan out of that?
So that story here was for our white label version of Go High Level. So our version is called Progreta. Now, inside of my business, High Level, of course, you can see inside of our accounts, we started to grow. And High Level reached out to me, sent me a message, and they said, hey, we would love to have you educate other people on what you were doing. So I said, okay, what does that look like? And then we just discussed, we'll do a workshop. We'll do a 3-day workshop, 1 hour a day over the course of 3 days, and just tell what you're doing. And I said, what am I doing? I mean, what I'm doing is, I think, simple and easy for other people to adopt. And the representative of High Level said, look, what you're doing is not what everyone else is doing. Can you elaborate? And I said, well, I have virtual assistants who run my business. On top of that, we have webinars that we host monthly to acquire customers. And the reason I host webinars is because I want to leverage my time. So I really primarily work once a month to get my customers. And the rest of the month, I'm either strategizing or spending time with my family. So
That's important. I'm sorry to stop because I really want to emphasize this thing that you brought up here, Andy, is the fact there's a strategy because you're really leveraging 1 day a month is kind of your attraction marketing approach. And then the rest of the time, you're busy taking care of the other things. So you really put in a unique aspect that you really have on one entry point that you really focus on getting people through.
Primarily, the system looks like throughout the month, I'm just building relationships and partnerships that has other people's audiences come to my webinar, come to my presentation. So without having to spend money on ads, I can leverage other people's audiences, other people's email lists, and so on and so forth. So I'm just building those relationships. And then from there, I have them come to the webinar. And then on the webinar is where that one day of work a month comes in and I do my self presentation. So High Level said, hey, like, that's what you're doing. So I said, yes. They asked me, can you share with our audience? So we did a 3-day workshop. I broke it down and just a flock of thousands of people came in asking for support, asking for help. So we put up a new brand called GHL Engine. And at GHL Engine, we initially started off with just coaching people to do webinars. And then as people were getting clients, they had a new problem. I got all these customers now, but who's going to show them how to use the software? I don't know how to do that. So I took my onboarding team and I said, all right, can you do it under their brand? Can you help them in their agency? And our onboarding team was like, yes. So what we do for our version, we'll just do it for other people in their brand, under their brand, white labeled. And then we had our support team who would support our current customers in our white label. I asked them, like, can you support the other customer, the agencies under their brand? So that way their sub accounts will get the help. So in that journey of people using Go High Level, we started helping other people in their business. Now, Go High Level, there's two avenues. One avenue is that you're an end user. You're using the software to run your podcast, your business, your marketing campaigns for your business, and you're looking to learn how to maximize that platform. The other avenue is you're an agency or a reseller. Because when you sign up for High Level, you actually have the ability to sell the account to other small businesses and create 100% of the revenue. So we initially started off helping the agency reseller, the person who were like us, selling the software to other small businesses. And then as we grew in the marketplace, we discovered that there were small businesses that needed our help as well. So our company is primarily a technical support company. And in that, I'll share with you a story. One person is Carly, for example. In Carly's case, she came into our program in 2023, at the end of 2023. And with that being said, I just started this new program where we were helping people launch their webinars with High Level. And in Carly's case, she's a mom. She was new to selling software. She lived in London and she was new to this tech. She ended up getting 100 customers inside of her business in 1 year. High Level invited her to speak on stage. A lot of where her strategy came from was from the trainings that we did at the beginning of her journey.
So she's a super fan of you guys.
Another super fan.
And that's the thing that I think people don't realize is that if you do what you need to do genuinely to help people, that's how you create those super fans. And you can't buy that kind of PR. There's no money that you can spend on ads to get the power of what I call a super fan that is telling everybody and their brother and sister about what you did for them, because that advocacy now shortcuts the whole sales cycle, because now Sally says, you need to talk to my buddy Andy. That's the verbiage. It's my buddy Andy or my friend Andy. And so Mike is going to go over there and say, okay, Sally tells me I need to deal with you. What do we got to do to get it going? And the whole sales cycle is just collapsed just like that.
Yes. I noticed that because a lot of our business doesn't necessarily come from cold traffic, which we're optimizing today for. We're optimizing for cold traffic so that way we can pull the future forward and scale faster. But even though we support thousands of businesses between both my brands, over 3,000 between both my brands, a lot of it came from affiliates, referrals, word of mouth. What are you using? I'm using this software. I'm using this company to help me. How is it working out for you? Great. Let me schedule a call and let me introduce you to the person that sold me.
And that's another key word I want to hit right there, Andy, that for our listeners. Introductions are much more powerful than a referral.
Yes, 100%.
Because a referral, you got the business card. Okay, you got a business card. You still got to go chase them. An introduction, like you just pointed, you got to talk to this and this. That's already done.
Yes, 100%. So we're just super excited to continue to grow and help other people and help them inside of their business.
Yeah, because the more advocates that you create, that's your sales team at the end of the day.
Exactly. I agree, Freddie.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that they're always focused on just the customer, but there's really in a business, to me, if you got employees, that could become a sales team if they're really fans of what you do and how you treat them. If you got vendors that you're working with, what's the relationship with those people? They can be a sales team for you. If you've got complementary businesses, so you're working with a CPA firm, for example, and you've got a partnership with them to grow your business and they handle your books, well, they can become referring your services to somebody else. You refer their services. It's a win-win. A lot of people don't look at the big picture and they forget about the whole sales team that's behind them, and they're not leveraging the whole ecosystem.
So that's what you got to do when you're running a business. You got to build great products, great services, take care of as many people as you can, and turn those people into sales reps for your business by them just naturally wanting to promote. Most of our affiliates, they say like, I don't even do it for the commission. I just do it because I just love the product and I just want to share what I love with other people.
And that's how you create super fans. I mean, that's one of the things, my success when I was in this software space, I started when it pretty much began. So decades ago, and I built relationships with my customers to where one of my fastest $60,000 software sale back in the early 90s was a phone call that someone called up and said, Jack says I need to buy this. How much? How fast? And it was a $60,000 order. And I spent 30 minutes putting together the order, making sure what components he wanted. The sale was done. It was just computer, what monitor, blah, 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 and put it together. And then I used his fax machine to fax it back to corporate. Because of that introduction and because I had the relationship with Jack, which was the guy's name in the mold shop, was a super fan of me.
That symbiotic relationship is what creates the success between you both your brands.
Right. Yep. That's why I came up with the name Business Superfan, because it's not a sports team superfan. It's a business superfan. But the bottom line is if you really have a mindset of turning everybody in your whole ecosystem as a superfan, now you've got an army of people promoting your business.
Yes.
And I think that's the secret to what you've done. You've helped a whole army get to where they want to get to. So now what you put out in the universe, you get 10 times back. So now you've got that whole ecosystem that's your growth engine. And that's why you're scaling the level that you are, because you've got all these customers and partners, everything else that are basically your sales team.
And as long as we keep serving them and helping them, that's going to keep your business growing.
So I think it goes beyond work. Richard Branson said there's no difference between work and personal life. It's called life. I'm a firm believer you got to recognize people on their personal stuff. So recognizing people on their birthdays and their marriage anniversaries, their work anniversaries. If they had a baby, like you mentioned, a lady with the business, recognizing them for their life events is the way that you really build those relationships that go for years. Most of my customers that I have, I've had between 10 and 15 years, and I still have them today.
That's what it's about, man. And that's why I love monthly recurring revenue, because you have to earn your customer's business every single month. It's not like I closed a deal. I talk about in my trainings, deals don't exist when it comes down to monthly recurring revenue. It's not a deal that you're trying to close where it's a one time, I sold a car, I sold a house, I sold this, I sold whatever. I'm building a long-term friend here. Many of my customers have been with us 4 or 5 years, and we started the end of 2021. So when we look at the pipeline, we're like, wow, so many people have stayed with us. It's because we take care of our people and we build friendships. That lady that I told you about, that she was pregnant, when she had the baby, my wife stepped in, and there were times where my wife would actually go in and care for the baby. And ironically, my wife and I had our first child 10 months ago. Now it's so ironic because we have clients all over the world, but it goes to show like how we're friends. And so that family who was a client who was a makeup artist and makeup artist trainer. And so when she had a baby, my wife stepped in to care for her baby. That was 4 years ago. My wife and I had our first child 10 months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so we had our first child 10 months ago, and it was like, whoa, we're parents. We needed some help. And this client stepped in, was like, although they're a client of ours, they were like, you can count on me. And they came over. Unfortunately, they live down the street from us because I met them at a local co-working space. And they said, yeah, count on us. And the first couple of months of help was coming from friends who were also clients of ours.
Yeah. When I started in the tech space, which was November 1980, I started as an application engineer, and there was another guy that started on the exact same day as me, and his name is Dwayne. We are still friends today. Back in Chicago, I had a townhouse, and he ended up renting a room out of my place because it worked out best for him. And we still are friends 40 plus years later. And I have customers that I've worked with in Europe, Australia, and a couple other places that I still have relationships with them. And some of them have gotten good friends that have gone to Europe visit, and I've stayed at their places.
That's what I'm talking about here, is like those type of relationships that just in business, in addition to them being a super fan of you, you get to be a super fan of them as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's when you have that mindset, that's why you're having the success that you're having, is because you've got what I would call super fan mindset, to where it's not about the money will come. If you take care of the people and help them accomplish their goals, as Jim Rohn said that we talked about, you don't have to worry about yourself. Joe Girard was a sales guy, Marola's Chevrolet back in Detroit, and he was the #1 world salesman. He's got the record. No, it was 13,000 over his career. But people would be lined up to buy cars from him, and he sent greeting cards
Is that
through
the
the
one
mail.
he wrote manually, like for Thanksgiving? I think I heard of that story.
Yep. Yeah, one of the things I always tell people is there's 3 times to really stand out in front of everybody. Halloween is a great time because it's fun and goofy. And so that's a great time to reach out and connect with your business ecosystem. Number 2 is Thanksgiving, which is the ideal time to say give thanks, because if you flip the words around, Thanksgiving is giving thanks. And so that's when I've always recognized my customers and thanked them around Thanksgiving time to say, hey, I appreciate you as a customer. Here's what's happened in our business. We've grown. We've done this all because of you. And then the holidays is holidays, period. That's it. And those are 3 great touch points. So you position yourself front and center in an upcoming new year.
That's right, Freddie. I do get to go to another meeting, but I did want to share with you, man. I do appreciate you having me on.
Yep. So how can people find you, Andy?
To learn more
Great
about me,
conversation, by the way.
I agree. To learn more about me, just go to andyaudate.com. That's ANDYAU.com.
Okay, we'll make sure that's in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time. I definitely would love to have you on the show down the road.
Likewise.
One thing that really stood out to me is that technology works best when it helps people strengthen relationships, not replace them. Andy's story is a great reminder that systems, automation, and recurring revenue can create freedom, but the real growth engine is trust. It is the customer who becomes an advocate, the vendor who goes the extra mile, the partner who makes an introduction instead of simply handing over a name. Revenue is the outcome of those relationships, not the starting point. So here's your challenge. Choose one person in your business ecosystem, a customer, an employee, a vendor, or a partner, and reconnect with them this week. Don't lead with an offer. Ask how are they doing, what are they working towards, and where they may need support. That simple conversation may strengthen a relationship, uncover an opportunity, or create an introduction you never could have purchased through advertising. If this episode gave you a useful idea, I know that you know one business owner who could benefit from hearing it. Every relationship you strengthen brings you one business superfan closer. Cultivate relationships, create business superfans, grow predictable revenue. I'm Freddie D. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll speak to you in the next episode.